According to the World Economic Forum, 99.9% of businesses in the United States are considered small businesses. Combine the small businesses with medium businesses, and well, there were a lot of people affected by the pandemic, from worker shortages to supply chain issues, but there still may be some help out there. So let's go ahead and bring in Jay Woods, founder and president of Omega Accounting, to get his thoughts on maybe getting some help to some of these people. Jay, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Well, let's go ahead, dive right in. I mean, what can businesses do? Let's kind of start broad. What can they do to make up for that lost pandemic revenue? I'm sure it's being referred to as now.
Yeah, so there is a great program called the Employee Retention Tax Credit that's available to business owners of 500 employees or less. And essentially this wage credit a business can get up to $26,000 per employee. So it's a very powerful and valuable credit that businesses need to be looking at.
I'm curious, Jay, were there any changes to this tax credit from 2020 to even 2021?
Yeah, the landscape of the pandemic, it really affected these credits. And so at the onslaught of the pandemic, Congress came out with relief programs. They came out with the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, that was very popular. At the same time, they came out with the Employee Retention Tax Credit. At that time, you had to pick a path. And so most people thought or went to dealing with their bank and as opposed to the IRS. So the ERC program was pretty underutilized, quite frankly. And so in the beginning of 2021, the Biden administration came in, changed that. They opened it up to where you could do both credits. And so the credit for 2020, you have to have under 100 employees. You can get up to $5,000 per employee. And in 2021, that really increased. So the credit applies for the first 3 quarters of the year. You can get up to $7,000 per quarter, so $21,000 per employee for 2021. So it's really a massive credit for the small to mid-size businesses.
It absolutely is. And that's one of the reasons, of course, we're doing this interview today, is to get this information out there. But, I'm curious, we've kind of broke down who qualifies for small-sized businesses, medium-sized businesses. What about industries? Which industry are you seeing being affected by this most that really needs to think about this credit?
Yeah, so the credit is really industry agnostic, quite frankly. Yeah. It comes down to, do you have employees? Are you for-profit or non-for-profit? That doesn't matter. Right. So we're seeing nonprofit groups qualify for this credit. What it comes down to is for eligibility, was your revenue impacted? So if you had a revenue decrease of 20% for 2021 or 50% for 2020, you're going to qualify for this credit. But even beyond that, if you don't meet those tests, if your business was partially suspended due to a COVID shutdown order, and that impacted your business in a nominal way, you can qualify. So, a good example would be a restaurant that went from, its normal course of operations to takeout only. And so that really changes the landscape of their business. It eliminates all of their opportunity for, indoor revenue. And so that's a partial suspension that qualifies. But as the pandemic changed and restrictions were lifted, there was still impact. So that same restaurant then a few months later can go back to indoor dining, but because of social distancing, they have to have 50% of the capacity in terms of the number of tables available. And so again, this is an impact that qualifies per the IRS. And so we're really seeing the effects of supply chain and the worker shortages, but even social distancing had a drastic impact on how businesses had to navigate, with people being remote, coming back to work, and how they needed to operate and function.
Well, Jay, in closing, we're almost out of time here. And of course, we focused on the employee retention credit, but just kind of overall, any other things that employers need to take note of moving into the new year to kind of prepare, or any other programs out there?
Yeah, so most of the relief programs have kind of sunsetted. The PPP, the SBA has an economic impact disaster loan that they're looking to potentially pump more money into. So I would definitely keep tabs on what the SBA is doing. But the reality is, business owners coming out of the pandemic really need to do an assessment of, do they have the right counsel and advisement. The reality is small businesses and mid-sized companies are really underserved when it comes to tax credits. And there are a bunch of credits that predate the pandemic. There's the research and development tax credit, employee training tax, work opportunity zone. The government really incentivizes you to retain and employ individuals in certain areas and certain, economic conditions. And so if you aren't aware of these things, I think what the pandemic has taught you is there is relief out there.
Yeah.
There are credit opportunities, and you really want to make sure that you're aware of them.
And of course, having somebody on your side to help you look out for these things. For more information, check out omega-accounting.com. Jay, thanks for your time today.